Well, this was really disappointing.
Everything they've built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
I've never felt power like this before.
X-Men Apocalypse is the 9th film in the X-Men universe, and that's me including Deadpool. And it just was okay, I guess. So basically this time around, the X-Men have to fight against an ancient mutant called Apocalypse, who basically just wants to wipe out the Earth with the help of his 4 followers, the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse. So I'm gonna go into the negative and end up on the positives. Some of the negative stuff about this movie. First of all, the lack of interactions between Magneto and James McAvoy. First of all, one of the negatives is the lack of interaction between James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. Obviously, in the past, in X-Men First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past, these were the best scenes from in those movies, where whenever Magneto and Professor X would sit down and just talk. I found them better than any action sequence in any of those films. And here you just have a couple of those scenes, and they're not even too long or really interesting like the rest of the scenes they shared in the other films. Another negative point is the fact that the 4 Horsemen are really underdeveloped, with the exception of Magneto. Storm and Angel, they do have like a brief little scene to set them up a little bit before they join Apocalypse, but the reasons as to why they join Apocalypse are just kind of stupid, really. Like it's just kind of like the fact that they want to be a little bit more powerful. But yeah, Storm is, she's like this poor girl in Egypt, so you would kind of understand a little bit from her. And Angel, you'll see in this scene, in his like scene when she joins Apocalypse, why he joins, but it does make a little bit more sense with them than with Psylocke. Psylocke was a pretty bad character. She only has about 2 lines in the film. You know nothing about her, and I swear to God, she just seems like she joins Apocalypse just because, hey, why not? I'll be powerful. So, but she really had like no reason, like any personal reason, to join up with him. So that was really disappointing. Apocalypse himself, he gets a really great setup, and he does some menacing at the beginning of the film. But as the film goes on, I felt like the focus was turning more towards Magneto, and you kind of feel like Magneto is kind of like the powerful one out of all the Horsemen, and Apocalypse himself. So yeah, as the film goes on, like his Apocalypse is just not as menacing as he should be, which kind of sucks because you would expect Apocalypse to really be this gigantic threat. One negative, though, that really absolutely disappointed me in every single level was the finale. The final fight sequence that they teased in the trailers between, the X-Men and the 4 Horsemen and Apocalypse was pretty terrible. There's just not much to it, like it kind of goes a little bit like they show in the trailers. Like, you've basically seen about 70% of that fight in the trailers. It's just not a lot going on, and it's not like all the X-Men against all the Apocalypse, and there's not like a huge fight scene. It's very one-on-one. Like, you'll have Beast going against Psylocke, and you'll have Nightcrawler going against Angel, and that's it. You never really have like all of them against all of them. And it's also not even done in an interesting fashion. It's actually pretty boring to watch. And man, was I actually expecting a big fight sequence, especially with the world ending around them, pretty much. Which leads me to another disappointing thing about the film is the fact that, yeah, the world's ending, and they do show some shots of, you know, like Australia and, you know, New York getting destroyed. But other than that, the film focuses so much on the X-Men and the fact that they are in danger that you kind of forget that the world itself is in danger. It's really more about the X-Men kind of getting out of there safely. And I really want it because this would be the first time where the X-Men actually have to fight this global scale kind of threat. So it was disappointing that that global scale ended up, you know, just being the X-Men, if you get what I'm saying. Now on to the positives. The whole cast was great, except for one exception that I do want to talk about, which is Jennifer Lawrence. She just seemed out of it. Like, sure, the way she delivers all her lines are flat. Like, she just delivers everything the same way. Like, she just doesn't care, doesn't show any emotion. And even like her facial expressions, because maybe if she actually had different facial expression, but she's always kind of like, that's really the only expression you'll see her, you know, showing throughout the entire film. And it's pretty weird for me because she was good in X-Men First Class. She was great in X-Men Days of Future Past. She was really growing into the character, and now it was like that was all thrown out the window. So yeah, I don't know if it was her just not wanting to be in this film, or if she was actually trying. This what was her best effort. I don't know. But yeah, that was pretty bad. It's pretty bad, especially because the rest of the cast's members are great in it. Obviously, the standouts for me are James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, especially Michael Fassbender. Like, that guy always brings it. And what my favorite scene from the film is one featuring Magneto. Obviously, it's not an interaction between him and Charles, because there's just a couple of them and they're not that great. Now, this might be considered a spoiler if you haven't seen the final trailer to be released, but Wolverine is in the film. Now, his appearance wasn't really necessary, but it was really cool to see, though. Like, it's always great to see Jackman as Wolverine. They do kind of set up a little bit of Wolverine 3 in this film, in a way, and they do, you know, manage to fix some stuff from X-Men Origins Wolverine, and even from X-Men The Last Stand. They're kind of like setting up stuff from storylines in those films. So, happy to see that. Now, don't get me wrong, the first two acts of the film are actually pretty good. You have a fantastic scene featuring Quicksilver, which surpasses that one from Days of Future Past, and that scene was fantastic already. I could really think of a way they would make a better scene. They did it, so props to them. And the story and the way it kind of progresses, especially with like Magneto and Charles, and the way they introduce like the new X-Men, it was all really well done. Shout out to Ty Sheridan. I had like no faith in him at all for, you know, playing Cyclops, but dude did a good job. Yeah, it's all really interesting, and you know, the action sequences that are like there in like the first two acts are well done and entertaining. It really is the third act where the film just kind of like becomes kind of boring and kind of uninteresting, really. Like, it could have been a lot better, and I think this film really needed that third act to really be something powerful, because there are some subplots that are just thrown away. Like, they'll mention it and they set up, there's some scenes that if they had actually used those subplots, it would have been great scenes. They just kind of throw them out the window. Like, they'll mention them a couple times throughout the movie, and that's it. They never really do anything with those scenes. So yeah, there's a film that, well, I still enjoyed it. I still recommend watching it in the theater. it was a very big disappointment. And I hope they kind of learn from this, and in the next X-Men film, I hope it's better. Especially when you're gonna craft like a big final action sequence. Just don't do it like they did it here. It was pretty boring and disappointing.